The DreadX Collection is a bundle of 10 games developed by different indie horror game developers, all created in 7 days with the goal of creating a PT-style teaser horror game. I played it a few months back and I enjoyed it, but now they made another one. So clearly I have to go back and rank each of the games from the first one before I start the sequel. I'm gonna be going in ascending order, and just like all things, my opinions are subjective. This is all for fun. I mean no disrespect to any of the developers, and I'm not saying that any of these games are bad. Developing games is hard, and all of these developers can make a better game than I could ever hope to. Alright, 3, 2, 1, let's start. The title screen of this game pretty much represents the whole experience. You walk for about 12 minutes until the game ends. A few creepy things happen, like the graffiti on the walls and the anticipation of this Rotgut creature, but either nothing is supposed to happen in the end, or the game is broken. I played it through twice. The first time nothing happened the entire time, and then a wall appeared behind me and the game ended. The second time, I saw 2 naked, stuck-together faceless, textureless models move towards me for a couple of seconds, then disappear. The game then ended abruptly, without the walls blocking me in this time. What is going on? What do these messages mean? What is Rotgut? I'm bored. I don't have much else to say about this game. More like, don't play this game. I'm kidding, of course. This game actually requires a bit of strategy. It has this cute pixel aesthetic and a good concept. A monster in some kind of void chase you a bit each turn, and it's your job to move along this grid axis and keep at least one survivor alive until the end of the night. 1 turn is 1 hour. It uses an RNG card system that lets you manipulate the rules a bit and spawn extra survivors with different abilities. I had a bit of fun figuring out how to beat it, but there's really only one way to do it. You run to the cabin and lock 2 survivors inside, then have one of them move to the other corner of the room. Game defeated. Most of the cards aren't even necessary to beat it. Not a bad game, I had my fun, but it's excessively short. Once again, no hate, it was only made in 7 days. This game has a cool aesthetic. I like the VHS-style camera and the concept that's clearly inspired from Indiana Jones. It even says so right here. However, the game has these enemies in it that relentlessly chase and kill you to the point where it gets in the way of the game itself. And they look like this. I thought this was meant to be some sort of ancient temple. These creatures make it feel like you're playing a game of laser tag. I do like how the camera gives you a brighter picture of your environment, though. Click! This game is Castaway taken to the next level. Except everything kind of looks like Play-Doh. This is a short survival game in which you have to manage various meters: hunger, thirst, cleanliness, and of course, shit. You use your smiley face friends to help you fill these meters, but at the end of every day you have to sacrifice one to Mr. Bucket. The lore of this game is intense. As a survivor on a deserted island, you begin to draw faces on all of your tools, and give them the clever names Mr. followed by the tool's name. However, the survivor decides to throw Mr. Bucket into a fire in favor of Mr. Bowl for collecting water. The reasoning for this is unknown, as a bucket can hold far more water than a bowl can. The survivor begins to go insane on account of isolation, and believes the PTSD-ridden Bucket is demanding sacrifices from him. The game gets progressively harder as you lose each tool every day, and you can actually die if you don't manage your meters properly. It's portrayed very silly, but I think it's trying to convey the subtle horror of the insanity created by isolation, and the attachment humans make to anything in order to not be alone. But I wish the walk to the far side of the beach wasn't so long. It makes the game way longer than it should be. And nothing happens during these walks. However, the game has an epic ending due to a glorious song at the end that I actually like.
I came here long ago, no one's come searching yet. I talk to buckets, chat to spears, converse with bowls, and now I'm in the ocean, where I'll die alone. I am.
I like the concept and the meter management, but I think I'll take my Mr. Mouse cursor over to the Mr. Next game. As the game's increasing quality, we have this dark creation. You play as a scientist going through his day at work at some sort of highly classified government-operated facility where shady things happen. You do some pretty dark things like murdering this guy who doesn't seem to care less, and experimenting on insects, by God! However, the scientist continuously reminds you that he doesn't mind doing these shady deeds because the pay is nice, hence the title. I like the monologue style of the game, with the character sort of talking about his troubles in life and how the pay has improved it, even though it comes with all of this baggage. It's a good example of how desperation drives people to become corrupt, and that's where the horror comes from. I would have probably ranked this higher, but for a completely narrative-driven monologue experience, the story kind of ends nonsensically. You see blood and a clown in your office, and then you walk into a room with human test subjects and one of them is missing. It's implied he kills you, I think? Then what was that whole clown mask fiasco about? Was it the scientist going crazy? Did the facility administer some kind of gas into your office to make you hallucinate? Are you a test subject the whole time? Did the guy who gets shot also think the pay was nice? The world may never know. Now I'm a happy camper. This game is fucking legit. Instead of running around with guns and shooting things like in Doom, you solve a series of puzzles in a haunted graveyard by waving your hands around like a lunatic. I love it. It's just a series of 4 words and a combination of stabbing yourself that creates incantations that cast different spells. There's Unlock Gate, Fireball, Bloodwell, Spirit Vision, and the Forbidden Incantation. I would play a full 4 hours of this non-stop, I'm not kidding. My only problem with it is that it's too short. You build up this arsenal of incantations only for the game to end right after. Also, in the Dark Dungeon, the fireball does not last long enough at all. And since you stand while incanting, it wastes a lot of time casting the fireball over and over and over and over. I wish I could cast the grab torch from the wall and carry its spell instead. This PlayStation 1 styled game is pretty good. It's essentially The Matrix, but with giant insect overlords instead. You begin the game normally, but then gain access to the network by using a neural injector that shows you what the world actually is, a shell run by AI gods. The King of Flies gives you the task of retrieving a new god for them, and that's the main objective of the game. The world building present here is fantastic. It tells the story of a future Britain, which is reduced to near rubble from corruptness, yet is still controlled by AI. It's like the ghetto Matrix. It even provides a contrast by giving examples like Tokyo, who are thriving under the AI gods. Moving on from that, the game's main problem is the amount of walking you have to do and virtually nothing else. I understand it's more of an experience than anything, but the distance between objectives is just way too big. There's a stamina upgrade you can purchase with collectibles, but you won't even have enough collectibles to buy it until the end of the game when you're about to complete the main objective. You enter another layer of the network at the end, where the sky turns red and enemies appear. Cool? Yes, but the enemies chase you relentlessly, and if you dare turn around or slow down for a second, you're toast. This is a world I liked visiting, though. Pony Factory is probably the most game-like game out of the bunch. And by that I mean you shoot things. In this game, you descend to the heart of a factory that produces these cheery creatures. This is how you do an enemy design in 7 days. They're creepy and threatening. This game is not easy. There's only 2 different enemy types, but that's kind of all there needs to be. Despite being set in a world where everything is black and white, while also being set in a dark factory, the lighting and environments are used quite well. The yellows shining through the windows, the blues sparkling through the hallways, and there's an uneasiness that comes with this blood-red color that shows up occasionally. There isn't much here story-wise, but it's revealed at the end that the person you're playing as does not intend to shut down the factory, but he intends to create his own bigger pony factory using the essence he's retrieved. What a twist! I don't have much else to say other than that it's creepy, it's fun, it's challenging, and it's good. A shining example of how less is more. In this game, you play a Game Boy-esque style of a round-based collect-a-thon. Grab mushrooms and progress to the next level. Avoid the poison mushrooms, and avoid the monkey's poop. Pretty cute, right? Wrong. You aren't actually playing the game itself, you're playing as the child holding the Game Boy. As you play the handheld, you hear various noises coming from inside the child's house. It freaked me the fuck out the first time, as the first sound effect you hear is a door knocking. My first instinct made me remove my headphones and check my bedroom door for a potential demon. It took me a second to realize the sound effects were actually from the game. When I realized the gimmick, I became immediately hooked. I've only played a couple of games that toy with this concept, those being Pony Island and Stories Untold. Both of those games shook me to my very core. It's chilling to think about simple pixel games appearing in our world in terrifying ways. As you make progress in Summer Night, the game becomes more distorted and disturbing images begin to pop up, along with several appearances from this pixelated atrocity atrocity. When you get to the end, you run out of batteries and switch to a first-person perspective. Oh, that's brilliant. Your new objective is to walk around the house and find batteries for your dead Game Boy. You walk through the darkness and get ambushed by the creature that was plaguing your game. The end. I love it. Not much more to it. It plays into that classic fear of the dark we all had as children, and summer night being a statement to cause remembrance from those late nights that we did play on those Game Boys. This one really does feel like a hidden gem. This is it. This game is worth the asking price of the entire collection on its own. If you're sold on the idea of the Dread X collection and haven't played it yet, buy it first and play this game blind if you don't want the experience ruined. I'm convinced this was not actually made in 7 days, and if it indeed was, the developer must have been on a copious amount of speed the entire time. Outsiders is an intricate game that is actually terrifying. You wake up in a bed with amnesia and not knowing what house you're in. You walk around not really knowing what to do and witnessing a few creepy things. Upon your first exploration, you may notice that things in the house are a bit off. You can interact with things and certain little questions will pop up from your character. A boy in a picture frame. I don't recognize this kid. The front door doesn't have a handle. Strange pieces of furniture. Why is this thing so weird? A locked door in the hallway isn't the same color. There's a cold draft coming from this door. A crib in one of the bedrooms. Where are all the baby supplies? Irrelevant pictures in all the picture frames. Why do these all look like stock images? And the most condemning observation of all, this towel is still damp. Actually, I don't know what's so wrong about that one. There's tons of stuff like this to inspect around the house. Things that make it appear just a bit off and make you feel like something's wrong. And what makes it particularly creepy is that seemingly random events can occur that make you feel threatened. Lightning outside. This clip right here of my first playthrough where I actually piss myself. After about 15 minutes, you will inevitably die on your first playthrough. The game encourages you to keep playing though. Once you awaken anew, you find messages written throughout the house walls, presumably from people that were there before you. These messages give you small hints on how to progress. This transition into finally figuring out how to progress and that something else is going on is so captivating. You'll eventually find out that the goal is to find all of these switches and turn them on, with all of their associated buttons being in hidden locations. If you don't figure it out within 15 minutes, the game will kill you, and you'll begin anew, with new messages written on the walls. The most rewarding part of this game is figuring stuff out without the help of the messages. The only ones I really needed were the toaster button message, the message that prompts you to go out into the cornfield because I did not want to go out there, and the message that prompts you to actually start carrying the tools around. Here's the kicker. Once you finally find all of the buttons, it unlocks this control panel behind the fireplace. Hitting the buttons lets you change the weather, the rain, and thunder, and the time of day. You walk out of that mysterious door from earlier, which is now unlocked, and escape the house. You run into some aliens who panic at the sight of you, and you find out that the house you were in was a film set the entire time. Immediately, I knew this was the indie horror game equivalent of The Truman Show, and I loved that idea, and I loved that I didn't realize it until I escaped. My realization was confirmed when you walk into the alien's office and you see posters for The Human Show. A very cheeky, clever guy developer, aren't you? The aliens explain how you were the first human to escape after like 1 trillion seasons of the show and applaud you, then imply there will be a part 2. The end. I like that idea. This game was very memorable, and I wish I could go back and experience it for the first time again. It's also the longest one in the collection, taking roughly half an hour to 40 minutes if you're clever, or over an hour if you're brain dead like me. And that's the Dread X Collection 1 ranked. Like I said before, I enjoyed my entire time with the whole collection, and all of the developers did great work. Time to move on to the next one.